The candles were already lit when my sister opened the door and said, "Sorry, you have the wrong house." No smile, no hesitation, just 6 words that slammed the door. Harder than would ever could. I stood there holding a red velvet cake, 12 candles, 1 for every year they skipped, 6 I forgave, and 6 I never forgot. My name is Elena Moore, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever walked into a room that used to belong to you, only to realize they've replaced you with silence? I didn't knock again, didn't plead, didn't shout, "It's me, your sister." I walked back to my car, placed the cake in the passenger seat like it still deserved celebration. And then it came, a text from my mom. "We told her fiancé you don't exist. We couldn't let him see you. He wouldn't understand." Wouldn't understand what, exactly? That I exist? That I don't match their filtered narrative? That I don't come with curated smiles and shiny lies? I replied with 2 words. Understood. And they had no idea what those words really meant. I went home, opened my financial dashboard, and began to reverse the blood flow. The $12,000 wedding fund I had quietly built? Frozen. The backup honeymoon account mom didn't know I could see? Disabled. The shared credit card my father used to handle last-minute details? Revoked. Then I printed out the family trust report, highlighted every payment, every time I paid their overdue balances, every time I bailed them out. I slid the report into a crisp envelope, along with a letter, written not in anger, but in clarity, addressed to Ethan Carter, my sister's fiancé. It started like this. "Hi, Ethan. You've probably never heard of me. That wasn't an accident. I'm Elena, her only sister." I didn't need to rant. I just told the truth. Quietly, factually, with timelines, with proof. Then I boxed the envelope and mailed it, because if they wanted to delete me, they should have known. I leave paper trails. And now, their fairy tale was about to meet the part of the story they never wanted told. 3 days later, he got the letter. Ethan Carter, soon-to-be groom, soon-to-be in-law to a family that lied like they breathed. I know the moment he opened it, because the calls started within the hour. First, my sister. 10 missed calls. A text. "You are disgusting. I hope you're happy." Then my mother. Voicemail. Voice trembling. "You ruined everything. He was never supposed to see that." My father didn't even bother pretending. Just wrote, "You're out of the will." Perfect. I'd already funded it. Meanwhile, Ethan? He sent me exactly 1 message. "Can we talk?" I didn't reply. Not yet. Because this wasn't about vengeance. It was about recognition. About what it feels like to be completely erased, year after year, while still being used like a silent vault. They forgot my birthday every year for 6 straight years. No calls. No candles. Not even a fake Facebook HBD. But my bank account? They remembered that login. So I brought my own cake. And when they closed the door, they closed access to the last part of me that still believed they'd ever open it again. I wasn't done yet. That night, I logged into the final account. The shared trust mom had insisted stay in her name for convenience. The one she swore was only for family. Funny thing was, they forgot the trust was tied to my social, which meant I had full legal control, and the receipts to prove it. I pressed one button, revoked access, every single one of them, and then I did the most satisfying thing I've ever done. I scheduled a recurring transfer to fund scholarships for girls who've aged out of foster care, girls who knew what it meant to be invisible, girls like me. Because if they were going to pretend I didn't exist, then fine. Let me be a ghost with power, with paper trails, with purpose. And the next time they tell someone, "We don't have a second daughter," they'll be telling the truth. Because the woman they once had, she lit her own candles, and then burned the bridge down to ash. By Friday night, the group chat blew up. My cousin Jenna texted, "Are you okay? I just saw Ethan leave the rehearsal dinner early alone." I didn't respond because I knew. The letter worked. Ethan saw it all. The hidden credit lines I'd cleared in my sister's name. The down payment I secretly paid for her first car. The gifted family vacations that were actually billed to me. He saw the erased birthday messages. 6 years of nothing. But somehow, they had no problem adding my email when it was time to Venmo for the venue. He didn't just see neglect. He saw manipulation. A curated family narrative scrubbed of its only silent pillar. Me. And now, the cracks were visible. No more filters. No more lies. I heard from a friend who was at the dinner. Your sister looked pale. Ethan didn't speak to her once. He left right after the toasts. At midnight, my phone buzzed. A new message from Ethan. I didn't know. Everything suddenly makes sense. Thank you for the truth. Still, I didn't reply. Because this was never about him. This was about me. Reclaiming the years I spent being the duct tape. Holding their secrets and entitlement together. The next morning, I got a notification from the wedding planning platform. Refund issued. Vendor account closed. Guess who was the vendor? Me. I had offered, years ago in a weak moment, to cover the floral arrangements. They never confirmed. They just assumed. So I canceled the wire transfer. No roses. No orchids. No overpriced bouquets to match a fairy tale built on fiction. Later that evening, another knock on my door. A courier. A silver envelope. Inside, the wedding invitation, ripped in half, and scribbled in Ethan's handwriting. Turns out, you weren't the one with the wrong address. No name. No signature. Just truth. I placed the torn invite next to the cake box I never threw away. Let it sit there, quiet, proud, whole. Because the girl they erased, she'd become the one person whose presence no one could ignore anymore. For years, I held my birthday in shadows. Not because I didn't care, but because pretending it didn't matter hurt less than waiting for a call that never came. No candles. No gifts. Just quiet rooms and excuses that tasted like guilt. But this year, I threw a party. Not for them. For me. A rooftop in the city. Golden lights. Catered soul food. A DJ spinning Nina Simone into SZA. And guess who knew my full name and used it with love? People from my present. Friends I'd built. Women I'd mentored. A few clients turned sisters. Each one hugged me like I mattered. Like I wasn't someone to hide. Like I wasn't an embarrassment to keep from a fiancé. My daughter, Ava, handed me a card she made by hand. Pink and wild with glitter. Inside, she wrote, "You're my favorite person in the world. I hope I grow up to be strong like you." I cried. Not the quiet, polite tears. The full-body ones. Because for the first time in my adult life, I felt seen on the day I was born. And guess what? No one from the family showed up. No call. No text. Not even a fake apology. But Ethan did. He didn't walk in with flowers or a dramatic speech. He walked in with respect, waited until the music dipped low, then approached and said, "I ended it. I couldn't marry into a lie. I want to thank you for telling the truth, even when it cost you everything." I looked at him, took a breath, and nodded. No bitterness, no pride, just closure. Because I didn't need to be part of their perfect picture. I'd created my own. Later that night, as candles flickered and Ava spun in her dress, someone asked if I wanted to make a wish. I smiled and said, I already did. I wished for one birthday where I wasn't forgotten. Then I blew out the candles. 12 of them. Each one carrying away a year they tried to erase me. And, in their place, I lit a future I built myself. They thought I'd fade quietly. That after a rooftop party, I'd get it out of my system and return to the silent, reliable daughter they could ignore until needed. But silence? It had expired. I dug into my storage unit that week, pulled out old journals, receipts, even voicemails. Proof of every birthday missed, every graduation they skipped, every family photo I was cropped from. I compiled it all, not for revenge, for record. I built a digital timeline. Each year I was forgotten got its own folder. 2017, a missed dinner and a gas bill I paid for them. 2018, their trip to Cabo on my airline miles, booked the same week as my birthday. 2019, the year they said, "You're too sensitive. Grown women don't need cake." And in 2020, I had texted, "I don't even want gifts, just a call." No response. But their Amazon delivery hit my inbox, paid with my Prime. This was not memory lane. It was evidence. Because someday Ava would ask, "Why don't we see Grandma and Grandpa? Why doesn't Aunt Marissa send cards? Why are they always at parties we're not invited to?" And I'll have answers. Not bitter. Not twisted. Just truth. They didn't forget my birthday. They chose not to show up. And now, I'm choosing not to show up for them. At the end of that week, I clicked send on one final email to the family accountant, requesting full removal of my name from every shared holding, investment, and asset. Subject line. Effective immediately. No explanation. No emotion. Just a clean exit. He replied, "Understood. Are you sure?" And I wrote back, "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." Because when someone spends 6 years showing you're invisible, you stop begging to be seen. You start building mirrors, so they can finally see themselves. I looked in mine that night, face clean, eyes sharp. No more waiting for love that never came. They erased me from their narrative. So I rewrote the ending. And in this version, I never needed the invitation to matter. I became the story. The wedding still happened, just not the way they planned. No Ethan. No luxury hall. No $20,000 cake shaped like their fairy tale. The venue called me. I used to be listed as a financial guarantor. They were confused. The card on file declined. "Would you like to keep the date?" I laughed. Softly. "No." Let the date go. Just like I did. They downgraded fast. From waterfront estate to some dusty lodge outside town. From hundreds of guests to a sparse 20. No press-on glamour could hide the cracks now. I didn't go, of course. But Jenna did. Cousin with a conscience. She sent me a single photo. My sister, in a wrinkled dress, looking out into a half-empty room. She wasn't smiling. Not even pretending. Because all the money she expected to float on? Gone. The emergency hair stylist bailed. The custom florals? Never showed. The catering delivered to the wrong address. And her makeup artist posted a TikTok saying, "Be careful working with brides who burn bridges. Sometimes, karma shows up in bronzer." Meanwhile, I was at the lake with Ava. She was skipping rocks. I was sipping coffee. We were both free. She looked up and said, "Do you think they're thinking about us today?" I replied, "No. But that's okay. Today isn't about being missed. It's about not missing ourselves anymore." Because I had mourned that family. Like they were gone. Turns out, they were just never really there. Only present when they needed something. Only warm when it was convenient. The real loss wasn't me walking away. It was them losing the one person who never treated love like a transaction. By the end of that night, I lit a single candle in the window. Not for them. For the girl I used to be. The one who waited for birthday calls. For inclusion. For permission to be celebrated. I whispered to her, "We're not invisible anymore." And the flame danced like it believed me. 3 weeks after the wedding crumbled, they tried to reassemble the pieces. An email came through. Not from my sister. From my mother. Subject line. "Let's talk like family." It started sweet, as always. I know feelings got hurt, and ended with the same manipulation. "Your sister is struggling. If you could just help her get back on her feet." Not once did it say, "I'm sorry." Not once did it mention the door slammed in my face. The birthdays ignored. The fiancé lied to. No. It was all, "Let's move on. Let's forget. Let's return to normal." But I don't do normal anymore. Not when normal meant being used. Erased. Gaslit into guilt for asking to be loved out loud. So I didn't scream. I didn't rant. I wrote one word back.
No.
And I clicked send. That word traveled like thunder. Because I'd never said it before. Not when they needed money. Not when they borrowed my car. Not when they stayed silent about my existence. For the sake of their image. No was my liberation. And their collapse. A few days later, my sister posted on social. A photo of her alone with a caption. Some people betray you in silence. I smiled. Because silence wasn't betrayal. Silence was survival. I had no interest in correcting her narrative anymore. She could sing her sorrow into every algorithm. But I wasn't the villain in her tragedy. I was the exit sign she ignored. That weekend, Ava and I hosted a dinner. 8 women, all forgotten daughters. Each one carrying stories like mine. Stories of being replaced by prettier lies. We passed plates. We passed healing. And one by one, we toasted the word no. Because sometimes, no is the kindest word you'll ever say. To people who only loved you when you were useful. And that night, in a room full of women who refused to shrink again, I realized something. I hadn't lost a family. I had built one. One no at a time. A year passed. No apology came. No call. No letter. Just silence. But this time, it felt like peace. On the morning of my next birthday, I woke up to sunshine pouring through linen curtains, the smell of pancakes drifting from a kitchen. Ava stood at the door, holding a plate with a single candle. You didn't have cake last year, she said. So, I made this one. It's lemon. Your favorite. I laughed. Real, open, healed laughter. And as she sang, off-key and radiant, I realized this was the moment I had waited for. My entire life. Not the song. Not the gift. But the recognition. The presence. The knowing that I didn't need to fight to be remembered anymore. That night, I invited friends over. The kind who stayed. The kind who saw me when no one else did. We danced barefoot in the living room. Ava drew stars on my arms with a glitter pen. We lit candles. Told stories. Ate 2 cakes this time. Because we could. Not one text came from my parents. Not one from my sister. But I didn't check. I didn't care. Because I knew. The girl who once stood on a porch with her own cake, hoping for a door to open, was gone. In her place stood a woman who didn't need entry into any space that couldn't hold her truth. At midnight, I went outside, lit a match, and burned the last unopened letter they had sent. The flames curled around their lies, their shame, their smallness, until nothing was left but smoke and a future they couldn't touch. Ava came out, wrapped her arms around me, and whispered, "Happy birthday, Mom. You made a whole world without them." I smiled, not with pain, not with pride, but with something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. And as the stars blinked awake above us, I whispered to myself, just once, with full clarity, I am not forgotten. I'm finally home.